I'm John Jackson. I'm the Country Sales Manager for the Northern European region at AVIRE.
Lovely, thanks John. Can you briefly tell us about a recent project? Who is it with and the challenge they brought to us?
Yeah, of course. A really interesting one is with a leading national rail infrastructure and station provider. And they have a large portfolio of about 85 sites and 85 lifts, and really the sort of regulatory compliance is super important for those because it's a public environment. And the challenge that they brought to us as well is around accessibility, i.e. disabled access onto the stations, and in particular how that rolls through is basically the availability of the lift for an individual to complete their journey who might need special access. So the availability of the lifts is super critical in that, and the uptime of the lifts is super important.
What were the specific accessibility or communication issues that they faced at station level?
So really it was about like visualization of, in essence, something that the elevator is a remote asset. Not all the stations will be manned, particularly ones in rural areas. So it's basically getting information about the availability of the system. Is the system working? Is the emergency communications working? And is there a problem on site? Now, it can even be something like a flood. So a flood could affect the elevator, and then sensors might be needed to trigger that and see remotely whether or not the elevator can be used.
How did our technology, particularly the Connex-02 and the AVIRE Hub, address those issues?
Really good question. The way that those products help, so the Connex is a remote input-output solution that can be integrated into the emergency communications network. So you can pick up real-world inputs, for example, a sensor inside the pit of the elevator to detect liquid, flooding, fire alarm sensors coming in, all kind of like door open, door close sensors. So basically it's a way to get I/O into the system, and then the hub is our tool for remote visualization. So it's a cloud tool that enables to basically see the I/O and see the status of the emergency communications. So you can visualize a lot of numbers of assets en masse.
What kind of real-world benefits has the customer seen since this solution went live?
The benefits really, the impact is availability. So like the provider makes their revenue from having the availability and the connection of a transport infrastructure. So if people can't travel, then there's a loss of revenue. But I think the real costs are often reputational ones, because people can be quite noisy about that, and it obviously has a big impact to someone's everyday life. So the social aspect of that and the reputational damage is obviously a hard one to quantify, but it means a lot to a public organisation to do a good service for all the users of the infrastructure.
You mentioned earlier that this was just the beginning. What's next for this partnership?
So next steps of the partnership, at the moment there's a central command centre, a transportation centre that basically pulls all the data together, uses our Hub Cloud platform to view that, and then they have a team in place who check the status of the elevators and make decisions about whether the asset is in or out of service. So the next step is actually a full automation of that and connecting of our system into a third-party system via the use of what's called an API. So that's like a background data movement, so that it can be automated in a better way and automated in a quicker way, so that there's no lag between an event happening and then an asset being out of sync that's going to affect somebody's journey.
Why is this project a strong example of how AVIRE supports regulated industries with digital services?
I believe that this is a really strong asset because it's critical infrastructure, and the client didn't really understand like how they could really realise a project of this scale and nature. So it was how we could help them to really integrate systems, for example, to digitalize systems, as well as providing the hardware, the communication, like network availability, etc. But we could really view it as a systems and like basically walk through them from a consultative approach to design a unique solution.
If another customer was facing similar issues, what is the one thing that you would want them to know about our approach?
Basically, three things. So we are a consultative business, and we often have to work together from a big picture idea to a real world execution. The second one, having a scalable solution. Often the customers may have tens, if not hundreds of assets that they want to deal with, and to scale that solution across over a period of time. And then the third is like a people first approach. So consultative, flexible, a long-term partnership where they could commit for a long period of time and provide that service and that infrastructure to benefit all the users and benefit themselves.